Michigan's Saginaw Bay forms the state's famous Michigan shape, and it's been feared by sailors since the first ship to cross it. Navigation was improved with a survey and chart in 1858, and lighthouses at Point Albark and Sturgeon Point made it easier to make the turn for the fastest route along the western shore of Lake Huron. This long spit of rocks going into Lake Huron is called Sturgeon Point. It's one of the most dangerous places. 24 ships have been snagged here. The Samana flooded and they came in and put pumps on there for 48 hours to save that ship. And it was from this location that the Egyptian was seen burning. They rowed for 3 hours to get to the boat, only to find out the crew abandoned ship. They had been saved by the crew of the William Fairburn. But the big fire that actually happened in this area, biggest in memory, was the Marine City in 1880. It was actually a mile from here that it caught fire as they were heading from Alcona. The Marine City had passed Sturgeon Point for 23 years, famous for its regular run from Detroit to Alcona, Alpena, Sheboygan, and Mackinac. It was her captain that reported 9 villages lost to fires in October of 1871. Only one building remained standing in Port Hope. 17 years later, the paddle wheel had a new captain, William Comer, and 100 passengers heading south on Lake Huron for Detroit. At noon on August 29th, they took on freight and people at Alpena. 2 hours later, they docked at Alcona to do the same. Leaving at 3:30, the Marine City made about 2 miles before a fire was discovered below deck. It's ironic that this is the only part that's still visible of the Marine City. In fact, this is the boiler, and this is where passenger J.N. Jones of Alpena said he smelled smoke coming out of a cabin. So he opened the door, realized it was ablaze, and saw it was very close to the coal bunker. He notified a fireman and an engineer to put a stream of water on the wreck, and he ran forward. That's where Captain Cormer was, up forward, the last one to leave the bow of the ship. Lucinda Clow was a passenger. Witnesses say she was the bravest woman on board, calming passengers and urging them to wait for the tugboats that were coming to their rescue. At her side was her 10-year-old son, but she saw another boy, Willie Voigt, panicking. She protected him until the Vulcan pulled alongside. Voigt was the son of Michigan's largest brewer, who produced Rheingold, Maduro, and Salvatore beer on Grand River Avenue. Tragically, Dr. Kelvin Pomeroy didn't feel his daughter and grandson were safe from the flames. He jumped into Lake Huron, and both he and his grandson Guy were lost. The boy's mother was thought too injured to live, but records show Elsie would be buried at Arlington Cemetery in 1917. Her husband, John McElroy, had just authored a book on his imprisonment during the Civil War, and both share grave sites at the military cemetery. In all, 8 people were listed as victims of the accident. Or was it arson? For months, they reported a phantom light that was over the wreck of the Marine City. And the Detroit Free Press actually sent a reporter up here in October who rode out to the light, and then as soon as he got to the charred remains of the wreck, he said it vanished, and he postulated it was an arsonist that had set the fire, and that it was possibly the fireman or a disgruntled engineer, but none of that was true. There was definitely no disgruntled arsonist on board the shipwreck, and the only 2 people reported by Captain Cormer as being lost were the head cook, James Griffin, and the head porter, whose name is Richard Schultz. The wreckage that pokes just above the water isn't the only thing that is available to see from the Marine City. As a matter of fact, if you go to the lighthouse, you can actually see what's left of the rudder that's been salvaged right here. It might surprise you to learn Sturgeon Point was originally yellow, repainted with whitewash in 1874 for higher visibility. This light was actually an oil wick to begin with, but it was converted on April 15th of 1915 to acetylene gas. Within 15 days, the keeper here resigned, saying his 81-year-old body could not handle the acetylene tanks. Louis Carty was the guy who had been here for 32 seasons. Right here, too, is the foundation of where the life-saving station was. This is actually torn out during FDR's administration. So in 1937, he worried about a recession and asked the Coast Guard to shut down 6 different locations. They took out Point Albark off of Michigan's Thumb. They shut down Middle Island by Alpena, this lighthouse at Sturgeon Point. They also shut down Sleeping Bear, and in the UP, Two Hearted and the Deer Park stations were all closed. Motorized lifeboats at Tawas now had the patrol for the area, with the Saginaw River Station handling the lower bay. But what do you do with a lookout tower, radio antenna, and 5 buildings that housed a Coast Guard station at Sturgeon Point? This was prime real estate when the government decided to leave it, and actually a congressman stepped in to make sure it wouldn't be developed. They offered a land deal, a swap if you will, for all the property that had been used in Oscoda for Wirt Smith Air Force Base, former state land that went to a federal facility, and also 207 acres in Kinross, which is where Kinchlow was built. This property was swapped out, so it became state land, and then eventually in 1982, the Alcona Historical Society took over this property. Today, exhibits are found inside the lighthouse, showcasing the station's history. Artifacts from the Marine City and a climb to the top to see the original 3.5 order Fresnel lens are a must-see when you visit Alcona County. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with friends. For more maritime stories, please visit shipwreckpodcast.com and visit the store to purchase my books and documentaries.